I've had the worst reading month in March, and it's not because of the quantity of books that I read, it's because of my quality of reading, because I've been in the worst reading slump and I don't even know why. Well, I kind of do, but when it comes to reading slumps, it's usually not this bad. I feel like maybe they will last a couple of weeks, but then I get back into my old reading habits. But this month, I literally just didn't want to pick a book up. I didn't have the motivation to read, but it was just so hard because I wanted to read, but at the same time I didn't. And I do kind of know why I was put in a reading slump. The first reason was because I was reading out of my comfort zone for other videos, and that was kind of a mistake because I ended up DNFing quite a lot of books, and I feel bad whenever I DNF books. Even though I'm kind of like, yeah, DNF books because we don't want to waste our time, I still feel bad when I start a book and when I don't like it, especially because certain books obviously are very hyped and loved by other people, or there are certain books that, I don't know, maybe I've been excited to read for a while. So when I DNF books, I do feel very sad, and I think because I DNF'd a lot of books in February, I just lacked the motivation to pick up another book because I was kind of scared to start reading another book. I don't know why. Starting a new book is so hard because whenever I start a book, I have to really tell myself, oh, you have to pick it up and, you know, get through it. I think that usually the first couple of chapters for me is a bit hard to get through, and most of the time I will read kind of small sections of the book, and I don't know why, maybe 30% halfway into it, if I am enjoying the book, all of a sudden I will be sat on my bed, just read the whole book in one go. And I think that's the reason why I was kind of in a slump, because it would take me a while to pick up a book, and once I start enjoying it, I do end up reading the whole thing. But I just really lacked the motivation to read, which is not something that I usually feel, and I think that was kind of frustrating for me. The other reason why was because a lot of Chinese dramas came out during February and March, and let me tell you, Chinese dramas, I love them, okay? But they are very, very long, but they're also very, very good. And I swear, February and March, so many good Chinese dramas came out. There was First Frost, The Best Thing, Always Home, and Skin to Love. I'll be honest, First Frost, The Best Thing, and Skin to Love, I kind of skipped through the scenes because I was bored, but Always Home, I'm telling you, best friends to lovers drama ever. I recommend it so much because the transition between friends to lovers is so subtle and it's so good. I've been rewatching certain scenes multiple times. It took me, I think, like 3 days to binge the whole series. Not only 3 days because I started off watching it kind of slowly, but when I say binge watching, I mean I did try and finish it as fast as I possibly could, and obviously 3 days is a very long time, and you can imagine me watching other dramas as well. It takes up a lot of my time, and I don't know, I think because at this point Chinese dramas are so exciting, they're just easier to watch compared to picking up a book, and because of that I stopped reading and I was like, I'm gonna watch some Chinese dramas instead. Usually with me, when it comes to reading, I have to actually, you know, make time and commit to reading, but I just didn't want to, so I just didn't read anything. It's quite interesting though, because I don't think I've had a bad reading year. I think I've given a lot of books 5 stars, all of 4 to 5 stars, but I just think that March was just a bad month. So hopefully April will be better. But let's talk about the books that I read in March. So I finished reading 5 books, 4 manhwas, and I also DNF'd 2 books. This month I continued on with completing series, and I also reread 1 book, and I think that made it really helpful because I was already reading series that was familiar to me, so it was not as hard to get into compared to starting a completely new book. So the first series that I was reading was The Damned and the Righteous, and this is in the Beautiful series, so I have 1 more book to read before I complete the series, which I'm really excited about. But The Damned and the Righteous is basically about a world where we have vampires, werewolves, and fae, and they're all kind of enemies, obviously. And we have 2 characters, which is Bastian and Cecilia, and there's this whole, I guess, forbidden love going on. With The Damned, I think it was honestly kind of boring. The ending was interesting, but in terms of the plot, it was kind of slow paced. We also had this certain trope which I really like because it creates some sort of angst, but I swear the trope only lasted for 2 seconds and then it was completely over, and it was a little bit disappointing. Also, I just felt like certain scenes were cut out from the book because it was just very not smooth in the transition between scenes. Multiple point of views as well. I'm not the biggest fan of multiple point of views because I feel like sometimes they are useless, especially when we get multiple point of views of characters who I honestly don't care about. Also, something that I didn't like about this book that is honestly, it's so nitpicky, is the fact that they would have random French phrases and they wouldn't translate the French phrases. So they would say something, speak in French to each other. I have no idea what they're saying. So the communication is absolutely lost to me. And I don't know why authors do that sometimes, because what's the point of having things written in another language, especially when it's done frequently and you don't translate what they're saying? Like, you can't expect me to know how to speak French. But yeah, that's just a very nitpicky thing. So with The Damned, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was kind of like to me at the same time. But I then read The Righteous, which is about Pip and Arjun, who are the side characters in this series, and it was kind of random why all of a sudden they got their own book, but I liked their book a lot better than the main characters. The chemistry between them is so good, and we have this whole, I guess, fake marriage situation because they're put into this position where they are forced to get married, otherwise bad stuff will happen to them. And I loved Pip and Arjun so much more than I loved Bastian and Cecilia. Their chemistry was just so good. We also did get some of Bastian's point of view, which I don't know why Bastian and Cecilia, through his point of view, just seems so different from the first two books in this series. And honestly, Cecilia was kind of pissing me off in this book. So I am excited to see what happens in the last book, because there are things that are going down, especially from the ending of the third book. So I did like The Righteous a little bit more than I liked The Damned. I did think it was more exciting to read, and I definitely got into it faster than when I read The Damned. However, I feel like the reason why I liked The Righteous was because of Pip and Arjun. I love their romance so much. Then I read Gemina and Obsidio, so I completed the Illumina File series. This series, I'm telling you guys, you need to read it. It's basically a sci-fi series which is written through a bunch of texts, files, and kind of recounts of the events that happens, which are shown through cameras. I don't really know if that makes sense, but they're on a spaceship, there's a bunch of cameras, and there's a person watching the camera and kind of relaying back the story of what happens to you. But the series is just so good, and there's just so many high tension scenes. I swear the suspense. There are certain times where I was literally gasping and it felt like I was suffocating because there were so many things going on. I was afraid for all the characters, especially Obsidio, which is the last book. I swear it's the best book I've read so far this year. I started the book and I was really enjoying it. All of a sudden, at nighttime, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick up the book, and I ended up staying up until maybe 1 to finish the book. I couldn't even finish it because I had 12% left because my head was hurting so badly. But it is so good, you guys. I recommend it so much. Each book we have different main characters, and I love the characters, especially the female leads, because they are incredibly strong and very crafty. So I love strong female leads. We also have romance, which is not the most important, biggest part of the series, but it is there, and the series is just so good. So please, okay, read it. I'm telling you, it's so good. The last book that I read was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, because I'm going through my Harry Potter reread. This year I actually want to reread a lot of my favorite series, and I kind of want to give myself a month each to complete those series. So as of right now, I'm currently rereading Harry Potter. I've also started currently rereading quite a lot of other series that I also need to complete, but for now I want to complete Harry Potter. And I will be honest, I love this world so much. It's so magical to me. I love the characters, but this book was kind of boring. I read the physical version, obviously, and it felt like it took me so long, even though it didn't really. It took me 10 days to read, which is not that long, but it felt like it took me such a long time. And I don't know, I didn't realize until after I reread the series that the plot is kind of slow and it is kind of boring because we are in Hogwarts for the whole entire year, and then the end is kind of when all the, I guess, bad stuff happens and when all the progress from, you know, the start of the book ends up. If that makes sense. If you read Harry Potter, I feel like you would kind of understand what I'm talking about. But I definitely think that I'm reading this book more out of nostalgia rather than the book being good, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that it's bad, like I still love the series so much, but I would definitely say that it's a little bit boring. Anyways, let's move on to the manhwas that I read, because that was all the books that I read in March, and I'm quite happy that I was able to finish certain series, progress with them, especially the Illuminae files, because I started reading the first book last year. I've been wanting to continue on with it, but I just don't know why I never did. But moving on to the manhwas that I read, first I read Robber X Lover, which is this really cute fluffy manhwa, and the art is super pretty. Nothing much happens in this. It's just really cute romance manhwa. We have The Cursed Prince, which this manhwa was quite funny. The art is also super pretty, but we have our main character who gets reborn into a crow. I guess, like, they are a crow, and basically she helps this prince, and she kind of becomes not a pet to the prince, but because she saves him, he's obviously, he really cares for her, basically. But the main character is really funny, especially in her crow form, and I don't know why I love animals in manhwas. The romance was also cute, definitely a little bit fast-paced, but I'm not super upset about that. We then have Your Majesty, Please Spare Me This Time, which this manhwa, if I'm being honest, when I first started it, I was kind of bored and I was already considering should I still continue. However, I knew that there was going to be a slow burn kind of romance and that the plot would be kind of slow, but it came to the point where it was too slow for me that I wanted to give up on reading it. But then I had 30 chapters left to read, and at that point I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna finish it anyways. Then the last manhwa that I read was Bye Bye, which this one, it was a cute... If I'm being honest, I read it, I finished it, but I didn't really care. Honestly, I feel like I probably forget about this manhwa. The last thing that we're going to talk about is the books that I DNF'd. First, I DNF'd You Like a Darker. This is by Stephen King, and I haven't read a Stephen King book ever, so this was my first Stephen King book. I started reading it and it was just not for me. I just felt bored while reading it. I think it's a collection of short stories. I think this was probably not a good introduction for a person who has never read a Stephen King book. I feel like I probably should read another book before I go into a book like this. So yeah, unfortunately I DNF'd that book. And then the last book that I DNF'd was Wild Side. This was one of my 2025 anticipated new releases. So it was really unfortunate that I ended up DNFing this book because I was really excited to start it. However, when I started it, look, I was excited to read Tabitha and Reese's story, but just, I didn't like the way that it was written. I don't know why. I really liked the first two books in the Rose Hill series, but with this one, it was just focused too much on them thinking about their physical aspects and calling each other hot every 2 seconds, and I hate when that happens. Also, the whole, oh my god, he's so like tall and big and she's so small and stuff like that. I hate reading that, especially because it is so repetitive, and I only read 18% of the book. Every single line, I swear they were just repeating the same thing. I don't know, maybe I would give this one another try, but I think at the time that I was reading it, the way that it was written just pissed me off. And I don't know why, because I really liked the first two books. I liked Wild Love and Wild Eyes, so I don't know what happened with this book and why I don't like it that much. I feel like I need to find the right romance, I guess, subgenre that is for me, because most of the time the popular book talk books or the books that get recommended are usually not my type of romance books. So we'll see, but that's basically all the books that I read in March, or the books that I DNF'd in March. Overall, even though I had a really bad reading month, I think that the books that I read during this month was actually really good. I'm happy about that, and if you are asking, am I out of my reading slump? yes, I am. I have a video where I try to get out of my reading slump and it worked. Anyways, that's my March wrap up, you guys. I hope that if you are in a reading slump that you will eventually get out of it, and I hope that if you are not in a reading slump that you will never get into one. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you guys in another one. Bye.